My name is Phil Jackman, and welcome to this week's In Conversation, in which I talk to people in the Northeast dynamic and exciting cybersecurity industry. It's brought to you by Cyber North, Dynamo Northeast Cybersecurity Cluster. We're supported by Accenture and the Innovation Super Network, and we're part of UK Cyber Cluster Collaboration, or UKC3, and recognised by DCMS and the NCSC as representing the region. And today, I'm joined by Ard van Moorsel, Professor in Computer Science, Cybersecurity at Newcastle University. Hi, Ard, how are you?
Good morning, Phil. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Excellent. Can you start telling us a bit about yourself and your role at Newcastle?
So as you said, Phil, I'm a professor in cybersecurity here at the School of Computer Science. And that is my main role at the moment. I don't have any sort of second big roles. In the past, I was the head of school. I was the head of the Institute of Coding. But at the moment, I'm just a professor. And so I'm leading the research group on cybersecurity. And so we teach in cybersecurity and we do research and innovation in cybersecurity.
Okay, so we'll come back to that in a minute. But you started studying in the Netherlands, obviously. I presume that's where you're from, and then moved to the United States. Why the move? And when did you find this passion for security?
The move to the United States was just a great opportunity. So I went in the Netherlands, I did my PhD. And the PhD meant, because I had a great supervisor, it meant that I got in touch with all kinds of people. They came to my university in the Netherlands, Twente, and I went to other universities worldwide to visit. And certainly at that point in time, there was no online setups like we have now. So everything was done through both paperwork and visits, physical visits, in-person visits. And so at that moment, I met various people. Also, one of the examiners for my PhD, Viva, and he invited me to come to Arizona, and then we moved to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And there I ended up staying a few years. And once you have been at the top university, you get the opportunity to work at top labs. And I was so lucky to go to Bell Labs, which is a great place. They invented the transistor and the C programming language and all kinds of other stuff. That was great. And then I went to HP Labs. And all that time I did sort of mathematical prediction of the performance and the reliability of systems. And then only very slowly security came in. So the security bug actually caught me quite late after I came here to Newcastle. And the reason for that is that in the 90s, when I did my PhD and I started working in the US, we very often didn't quite care so much about security because we just wanted the thing to go fast and not break too often. And we actually hadn't thought too much about crime on the internet, etc. So it came a bit later. Yeah.
Oh, indeed. That's fascinating. And so what attracted you to Newcastle then? Why here?
Yeah, and so Newcastle was one of those places that's world famous for doing this research in dependable systems. Dependable is a catch-all for reliable and secure systems. So systems that don't fail, or if they fail, that you have a way of tolerating the failure and recover from it. And that is a famous element of Newcastle research. And that's why I came. I knew the people here when I left the US to come back to Europe. The professor here emailed me and said, we have an opening. Do you want to come? And I thought I go for a year, and I'm still here almost 20 years later. Yeah.
Excellent. It's good to hear that Newcastle is world famous for that aspect. And so tell us a bit about Newcastle University's Computing Science School. Students, how many students have you got, etc., etc.?
Yeah, of course. It's one of the trend-setting schools in computing in the country. We've always been a little bit ahead of the curve. So if you see our recruitment pick up, then you know other universities will pick up in 3-4 years. And that is just because of the dynamism that we have here in Newcastle. So we have about 1,000 undergrad students, a little bit less, but it's not that far off. And we have around 500 postgrad students, many of them international. So a lot of students. We have about 60, 70 staff members, and that's just exploding at the moment. Because there's so many students, there will also be more lectures and more professors. And so it is a big school.
Excellent. And Newcastle is an academic centre of excellence in cybersecurity research, one of 19 in the country, and actually one of 2 in Newcastle. So what's the relationship between yourself and the National Cybersecurity Centre? How does that work?
Yeah, so that is very important to us. So we were one of the earlier academic centers of excellence. So I think we are getting close to 10 years now having that label. And that is very important to us because the National Cybersecurity Center, um, first of all, funds our research. So that is an important element. Then it provides us with all the connections that we would want. And then it provides our university with a link into NCSC to talk about things like cyber essentials and how do we do cyber essentials in the university. That's a big, big ask. And so we're having those conversations right now. So on all fronts, NCSC is important. Back then in the beginning it was called GCHQ actually, but NCSC has reorganized a little bit because the academic interaction is not really the GCHQ style rather secretive interaction that you would have. This is completely open. It's known everywhere. We're also very happy that Northumbria also is an academic center of excellence. And both of us are research centers of excellence. And what both of us trying to do now is to become teaching education centers of excellence as well. And for that, our programs need to be approved by a committee. And that is probably going to happen in the next years. And that's another element. So the NCSC also influences what we teach. And so they have sort of a booklet that says you have to teach cybersecurity 101, 102, 103, and you can choose between 104 and 105, something of that nature. And so that's important. For me personally, also, they very much funded our work on human factors. And I think you see a lot of academic influence in terms of how our government deals with the human aspects of cybersecurity, the practicalities of remembering and using passwords, two-factor authentication. We've done a lot of user studies around that with NCSC, and that has gone into the governance rules of government and the advice of government as well. So yeah, very important relationship, absolutely critical. Yeah.
Excellent. So I think you probably touched on this, but so what is it that attracts students to Newcastle University for the research and the teaching?
Um, so the reason, well, so we have undergrad and postgrad students, and I think the undergrad students very much like the city of Newcastle, and so that's important. For the postgrad students, it is much more the subject of cybersecurity. So I think there are a couple of strengths here in cybersecurity. One is this element of the human and organizational aspect. So we don't only do technology; we actually look at how does the human interface with system. How do you make systems that humans can use, and that you don't in the end always blame the human that they don't do it right. Similarly, organizationally, it's extremely important to get the organization sorted and to work with that. So we work with people in the business school. We also have a degree apprenticeship, and that is very important to us. We're completely innovating in the degree apprenticeship at the moment in cybersecurity, where we make it much more attractive for people to study, because they don't have to do more than one day a week in the lecture hall, and so that is going to be an important one as well. And I think that attracts a lot of people to Newcastle as
Excellent.
well.
So I understand that you've just secured a fairly large grant to research online harm along with Durham University. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic grant. So it's a lot of money that goes into the millions, but it is for 3 years. 10 people will be employed to do research on online harm, and we do this with people that are sociologists, psychologists, ethics, human-computer interaction, designers, and computer scientists. And we do in computer science, we do particularly AI and trust and reliability of AI-based systems, and we do cybersecurity, sort of the hardcore cybersecurity. Um, and that project is all about online harms. And you have seen the discussions in the Parliament around the safety bill that inspired a whole line of research, or in fact a little bit the other way around as well. The research that we have been doing in the universities around the UK, these academic centers of excellence, that research has fed into policymakers and how should we deal with this. Um, we will look in this project, it's called Agency, and it's really interesting because we will not look at online crimes as we know them, but more complex online harms. So, for instance, young females that get typically females, but also males that have a poor body image because of all the pressures of Instagram, etc. Fake news. We will work with the BBC on fake news, helping women that are subject to domestic violence or sexual violence, particularly women, but also actually men in this particular case. So we work with the Angelou Center, for instance, on these. At least we try to resolve some of the challenges that they face. We will look at smart homes and how a home that is completely digitized changes the way you live. Of course, we use a phone, etc., but it really makes you think differently, interact differently, rely on different things, also save energy, etc. But potentially also being spied upon, whether with criminal background or because of family. So all these very complex harms that come from being in a digitized society. That's what we look at, and we're looking particularly at how can we give people agency. That's right. That's why the title of the program is called Agency. How can we give people control, or partly also a sense of control? Very often the sense of control is as important as the actual control, but we look at both, and we look at how important these are for fighting these complex online harms that we all face in daily life. So that's going to be the project. 10 researchers for 3 years, about 1/3 in Durham, computer science and business, and 2/3 here in Newcastle. So nice, close together. It's going to be fantastic. Starts April 1st, and it's going to be very exciting. Yeah.
Absolutely, and they're real hot button issues now at the moment, and it's great to see
Absolutely.
the universities working together, which I know you do. But if that's not enough, are there any other areas of interest in terms of research that are exciting you at the moment?
Yeah, so in fact, if you look on the whiteboard in the back, it's actually a blockchain there on the back. But
Great.
I'm very interested in fintech, and actually there will be another announcement. It's embargoed yet around funding in the area for fintech, a very prestigious grant that we got into Newcastle around fintech, and that I'm very excited about. Of course, Bitcoin and blockchain is just a remarkable thing, right? I mean, it's hard to, as a techie, it's not about the tech and actually that these coins are suddenly so valuable. How can that happen? But the blockchain is also very, very interesting technology. Just very cool, very practicable, and still guaranteeing all kinds of nice, reliable, and secure properties. And that blockchain is increasingly important, for instance, in storing identity information. And so, what we want to do, and we work with Atom Bank on that, what we want to do is to look at how we can use the blockchain to keep information about individuals, but actually in the control of those individuals. So the word agency comes up again. So it's in the control of the individuals to share information, for instance, about vulnerability or about power of attorney. About all those elements are stored in your wallet on the blockchain, and then you decide to share that with a bank or with a mortgage company or whatever it is, if that is appropriate. And we share that with just giving enough information, but not every detail of information. So, for instance, you don't share the illness, you only share a certificate of vulnerability, health related vulnerability from the NHS. So, either way, that whole blockchain system opens up these kind of opportunities where we as individuals can own our own data and decide who can see it. And that is what I'm very excited about technology wise.
Excellent. Me too, I must admit. It's blockchain, I think, is a fascinating subject. And
Yeah.
fintech, I think, is another hugely important area for the region, and no doubt we'll be in touch about that again. So my last
Absolutely.
question, I'm not, what one thing would you like to see happen in the next 12 months in these turbulent times?
12 months, huh? Yeah, well, you mentioned the turbulent times. I mean, of course, also here at the university, we have people from Ukraine. My colleagues here from Ukraine, we have students from that area, and so that's the first thing we all would wish, I'm sure. Uh, uh, let's hope for peace, and let's hope that nothing spreads into Europe. Also, for me personally, of course, very important. So that's the main thing. Um, Another thing that really takes as much far too much time is at the moment is that the talent pipeline is so thin, And we just spend all our time hiring new people who then leave to go somewhere else, because somewhere else there's even more exciting work to do. Whether it is for me as an academic, whether it is for our IT people, whether it is in startups that need software people. So if I would have a wish, I would wish wishes to have enough talent to fill the pipeline, because that would take so much pressure off the system. We would be so much more efficient and could focus on our work. But at the moment we are not there. So we are at the universities. We are trying to deliver talent as fast as possible and as competitive as possible for the industry that they're going to work in, and other or government organizations, etc. So we do our share. But if we could solve the talent pipeline a little bit better, that would help our whole economy. Would help everybody a lot.
Absolutely right, and that's one of the four legs of the Cyber North stool, is the whole skills agenda, etc.
Yes.
Well, look, thanks for that, Art. That was really good. I'd also like to thank Robert Campbell, who's helped me to set up these In Conversations. Look out for the next Now series, and if you're interested in taking part or know someone who would be good for it, please get in touch. Thanks very much, Art.
Thank you very much.
That was In Conversation with Phil Jackman, lead for Cyber North. Audio and video production was by me, Robert Campbell. This was a Team Funds production for Dynamo Northeast.